With the rise and demise of That 90s Show, I decided to take a look back at the short-lived show's even shorter-lived sibling, That 80s Show. A show that a lot of people didn't know of, don't remember, or wish they didn't know of or remember. While the spin-off carried the first show's name, it failed to live up to it. To say that it was an unsuccessful successor would be an understatement, not making much of an impression with audiences and ending its run after just 13 episodes. It also didn't share any continuity with that previous show about that previous decade. I know that there's that long-standing rumor that the leads of each show are actually related. People say that Eric and Corey are somehow cousins, but that's not true. Nowhere is that ever said, referenced, or even hinted at. The only thing these two shows have in common is that they both took place at a point in time. Different points in time, mind you, but points in time nonetheless. The setting wasn't the same, the characters weren't the same, even a lot of the people working behind the scenes weren't the same. Although, some of the people in front of them were. Brittany Daniel plays one of the show's main characters, Sophia. This coming shortly after she starred in an episode of That 70s Show as Eric's hot cousin. Apparently that part was sort of an audition for this show. Robert Clennandale, who played Earl on That 70s Show, also plays a small part as a Gelato shop employee here, giving the actor the very distinct bragging right of being the only actor to appear in That 70s Show, That 80s Show, and That 90s Show. While the two shows shared some of the same creative team, apparently that team effort didn't go into this product. As a matter of fact, it feels like That 80s Show fundamentally misunderstands the success of That 70s Show, misusing and over-relying on its titular time. That 70s Show obviously takes place in the 70s, but it isn't focused primarily on the decade that it takes place in. The 70s were never the point or the punchline. It was merely the setting of the story. Sure, there were jokes to be made about the story's surroundings, but not getting a reference wouldn't ruin your experience with an episode. The characters were easy to connect with, the story was fun to follow. The jokes weren't entirely dependent on your knowledge of that time period, which is sort of the exact opposite of what That 80s Show has to offer. Ultimately, That 80s Show was a show that dared to ask, hey, weren't the 80s weird? And that's it. That's its premise. There wasn't any substance to the show. It was all surface-level satire. And even in saying that, they never really had anything to say. It was pretty much just an acknowledgement of trends of the time. But if you weren't around at that time, a lot of these references are either entirely lost on you, or the humor of the reference is lost on you. The show makes a lot of mention of the drug culture at the time, which makes sense, it was the 80s after all. But in just 13 episodes, there are several jokes, scenes, and entire episodes dedicated to this.
Hey, is my nose bleeding?
Nah, you're good.
Are your gums numb? So incredibly numb!
There's a line you don't want to cross when you party, and Rick snorted his.
It's especially strange to see when you remember how incognito That 70s Show had to be, just when it was concerning the characters smoking. Here it's a much stronger drug, and a much stronger approach to showing the drug use. It's less of a heartfelt love letter to the decade, and more of a mandated acknowledgement. The show didn't have a story to tell, and the series couldn't survive off nostalgia alone. People might have loved the 80s, but they didn't love That 80s Show. Now, you could argue that comparing That 80s Show to That 70s Show is unfair, but those comparisons were inevitable. Carrying the brand's name meant carrying the brand's reputation, so unfortunately this show was being held to an unattainable standard from the get-go. It didn't get the chance to fail on its own before it was asked to succeed as something else. Not only did the series put the spotlight on the 80s as opposed to their leads living in the 80s, but they did so at the expense of those leads, with all of the show's characters coming off like caricatures. The show follows Corey Howard, a boring, basic, and bland blueprint of a man. The character's only funny bits in the show come from his actor's perfect reactions to his friends and family. Corey lives at home with his sister Kate, who's a total valley girl and well-meaning airhead, and their father RT, who is the show's somewhat problematic designated horny character. Corey's best friend Roger is a larger-than-life wannabe yuppie that lives in the apartment above the family. Corey also has an ex-girlfriend Sophia, who is a bisexual woman that spends the runtime trying to seduce his sister, despite her constant rejection. But outside his home life, Corey works at a record store for a nonchalant, uncaring boss Margaret, and a punk rocker coworker Tuesday who can't decide if she loves or hates our lead.
Thought I was funny this morning.
That was then. This is now. I just bless you.
There's Owen. He's a good-hearted, well-meaning moron Marine, or more accurately, Navy SEAL. There's Katie's perfect other, and Patty, who is Roger's sex-crazed, overly competitive girlfriend that he gets closer to the end of the season. And that's it. I couldn't describe any of these characters past this point because that's really all there is to them. You can perfectly express these characters with 1 to 3 words. Watch me. Everyman, dope, happy dope, rebel, old perv, fun boss, used car salesman, and Pepe Le Pew. And that is 13 episodes of that. There's no growth for any of these characters either. There's no developments to be made. What you see is what you get, and also what you end up with by the end of the season. That 80 show is maybe the most face value series I've ever seen in my life. You could watch one scene with any of these characters and have a complete in-depth understanding of them. Though what I will say is, to the show's credit, the characters may not have been well crafted, but they were at least well casted. It's like everyone's good in their roles, it's just that these roles aren't all that good. I've seen the vast majority of this cast involved in other projects that I happen to love, and at times I think a lot of them are actually pretty good here. But more often than not, they're consistently bland. There's like several scenes where Corey seems like he's about to go full Dennis, and that was probably my highlight of watching this show.
You know what? I think you want to have coffee with me. If the girl said no, then the answer obviously is no.
No.
But the thing is she's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
Speaking of which, I can't hate that 80s show in its entirety because that 80s show is in part responsible for another show that I happen to love. It was actually during the making of this show that Glenn Howerton met Charlie Day, who was auditioning for a role in the series. So without this failure, those two probably would have never seen the success of Sunny. As a matter of fact, Howerton would use the money made from this series to buy the camera that would wind up filming the short series pitch for It's Always Sunny, a show which Brittany Daniels also would have a reoccurring role in. It's hard to actually discuss that 80s show because, narratively speaking, there's not a whole lot to discuss. The series is ripe with problems. The laugh track is real rough. It's obnoxious, and those making this seem to be oblivious to it. Making matters worse is that the comedy is very often unfunny. The jokes nearly never land, and sometimes it's hard figuring out where exactly it was they were aiming to begin with.
That was funny. To no one.
The characters don't make an impression and the jokes don't make an impact. Watching just a few minutes of one episode will give you an overview of the series as a whole. That 80s show didn't have anything new to offer, nor did it have a new way to offer the old that it did have. Having said that though, it's not entirely without its charm. Corey and Tuesday put the fun in dysfunctional. In their own bizarre way, they could be somewhat wholesome. Tuesday and Corey's relationship might not always make sense. As a matter of fact, most of the time it doesn't, even to them. They start off on a pretty rocky road, and I don't know that that path is ever fully paved out. But they wound up being a lot of fun. While Tuesday can be a lot, Corey can be, admittedly, a little. She's doing too much, and he's not doing enough, so in a weird way they kind of balance each other. She adds a lot to Corey's character, making up for whatever he was lacking in the personality department. And his inclusion in her life gives Tuesday a chance to grow as a person, so it's very symbiotic. I also kind of love Margaret's role in their relationship, pulling all the strings in the background while also just there in plain sight. All to amuse herself just cuz. I actually happen to think Margaret Smith is pretty funny, despite the show being pretty unfunny.
My mother's recipe. She's dead.
Oh, so dead is off limits now?
And once again, you gotta love Owen. One thing I really did love about this show is that it had unique dynamics with its relationships. The back and forth banter and bickering between Tuesday and Corey, the constant competition between Roger and Patty, the happy and hokey energy of Owen and Katie. All of these are actually kind of interesting pairings. And I think it would have been more successful had it leaned into these odd couples as opposed to just treating the 80s as its centerpiece. That 80s show absolutely abuses the love docahedron. Something that takes a lot of other shows' seasons to do, this one accomplished in 13 episodes. Now, the love docahedron essentially is love triangles within love triangles. In some form or fashion, everyone ends up with everyone. Like, take for example here Sophia. Sophia dated Corey, but she's interested in his sister Katie, though their father RT is interested in Sophia, who Corey's best friend Roger also makes several passes at. Now, Patty dates Roger, but she had a previous fling with RT. RT flirts with Margaret. Margaret's been with every musician not named Ray Thorne. Ray Thorne goes on a date with Tuesday, and Tuesday ultimately winds up with Corey.
What is going on? What is going on?
That's all within 13 episodes. And that's not even all there is. The series had potential, but even in saying that, I wouldn't call the final product a diamond in the rough. Because the rough was real rough. And the diamond, well, it's kind of more like a speck. Between the bad and the bland, there was some good there. Though that's not exactly high praise, and it's certainly not enough to save a series. Unfortunately, all of that wasn't enough to endear audiences to the show. It pretty much amounted to window dressing for an empty house. I don't think that 80s show is downright awful. I think it probably would have been more memorable if it was. In my opinion, it just feels like a really shallow and a really hollow attempt at leeching off the success of something else. Like I said before, that 70s show had a story to tell. But that 80s show spent its time looking for a story to tell. It's not just that this show doesn't work as a spin-off. It's just that this show doesn't work. That 80s show feels so vapid that it feels less like the 80s and more like a cheesy 80s movie. It had the look and the feel of the corny stuff that you'd see that was out at the time, and if that was the intentional approach or the vision here, well then I would say good job. But I don't think it is. That 70s show wasn't a spoof on the 70s. It was a coming-of-age story set within the decade. The characters felt like real people, and those real people had real problems. That's why audiences really connected with them. So for lack of a better word, that 80s show never felt like a real show. With that being said, thanks for joining me in this blast from the past. And if you'd like to join me once again in taking a look back at the show that spawned it all, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
Back in the 70s.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.